Ashley said, my name is Bhavin Singh. I got started in this business at the age of 22. I'm 40, so I'm out of the 40 under 40 club now, and I still get recognized for that. But I started at the age of 22, 18 years in this business, and I can tell you it was definitely a journey. When I got started here, I showed up. I came from a family that did very well, so I never really had anything that I had to worry about in life. My parents worked hard and gave me everything that I needed, but I showed up with a very negative attitude, lack of self-belief, on a very high scale, and it got me to a point where, as I was talking to people about the business, I was getting a lot of rejection, and through that rejection, which we're all going to get, but through that rejection, I started telling myself a story about myself which wasn't true in God's image in the way He created me, but it became my truth because I based that story off of what other people said about me. And I used that story, and I lived with this negative story about myself for so many years that even through my prospecting, I was recruiting a lot of people, but it was interesting because there were several years where I was top recruiter in Southern California, but there was nobody else that was showing up with me. I was always showing up alone, and I think that was because I lacked the leadership skill, I lacked the belief in myself to develop leaders. I didn't think I had it in me because of what I was telling myself. And it's so interesting, when I was getting a lot of recognition, in that moment, I was always striving for that goal because in that moment of recognition, I actually felt like I was somebody. I felt like I belonged. Some of you know, nobody really knows this. I've shared it with some people, but there'd be times in my life where I'd get ready in the morning and I wouldn't even turn the light on because I was so disgusted by what I saw in the mirror. And I called my dad one day and I said, Dad, I don't know what's going on. You know, Mom's gone. Life is just going on a downward spiral. I punched a couple holes in my wall where I lived. And I said, Dad, I don't know what's going on. I've been here for so many years and I'm not having success. And my dad said something that stuck with me all these years. He said, you know, you'd been here about 14 years. And he said, the truth is, you're not 14 years older as a Legal Shield associate. You've repeated year one 14 different times. And I was like, oh my God, that took me back. And I realized I needed to really work hard on myself. And this story came into my head, this analogy that I heard before, and it was the analogy of a bow and arrow, right? And I relate that to life, and I relate that to my life. And the analogy is that the bow symbolizes life. We are the arrow, and the person whoever's in control of that arrow is God. And I know that the only way that that arrow is going to do what it's supposed to do is the further that it gets pulled back. And what happened was I was living from a place of complacency. I was just kind of settling, figuring this was my lot in life. And as I heard that analogy, I thought that's such a symbol for how life works. Because everything I wanted to achieve was, let's say, over there. And everything I was doing, I felt like I was being pulled further and further away from the things that I wanted to achieve. And I got off the bow. But in that moment, I decided to get back on the bow because I know that when God is in control of the bow, He's not going to let that bow break. When I gave up on myself, He didn't give up on me. And at some point on His timing, He's going to let go of the arrow, which is me, and I'm going to soar so much faster and further than I ever thought possible. And anything that comes in my way better get out of the way because I'm going to pierce right through them. God bless you all.